Good evening to all. Welcome to this lecture session of the course Computational Fluid Dynamics. In the previous session, we have started our discussion on the gradient based methods. Okay. And in terms of gradient based methods, we have come up with some function f of phi, which was defined as half of phi transpose A into phi minus B transpose into phi plus C. And I told you that this function will be minimum when we are having A as symmetric and positive definite. And what are the conditions for symmetric and positive definite? That also I told you in the earlier lecture. Okay. After that, I told that uh, this particular function we will try to solve with the objective of minimizing this function. And if we have to minimize it, I can set that my function df of phi divided by d phi is equal to 0. And once we have substituted this particular condition, we found that it has resulted in nothing but a times phi minus b equal to 0. So as it has resulted in a phi minus b equal to 0, this is nothing but our system of equation a phi equal to b. So it means whatever this function we have taken in gradient based methods, if we try to minimize this function, that will be resulting in nothing but solution of our system of equations. Okay, but why we are choosing this particular function and why we are going in this certain specific way for solving the solution, for finding the solution for our system of equations, the key reason is that by using this particular formulation, we will be getting some specific direction in which we have to march the solution. Okay, and that direction will be basically improving our convergence rate of the solver. Okay, so now this is the basic concept related to the gradient based methods. Now there are some specific set of methods which we can employ to find out the solution for system of equations. Okay, so the first gradient based methods we will be talking about is steepest descent method. Okay, so in case of steepest descent method, what we will be doing, we will try to write, let us consider that our system of equation is a phi equal to b. Now let us consider that after the first iteration or after the initial guess, so what we will be doing, we will be first guessing our value. Say our phi naught is nothing but guessed value. So this is our guess value. Okay, so once we have obtained the guess values for phi, after that we have to go to the next iteration. So while we will be going to the next iteration, what we will be doing, we'll be writing that phi 1 is nothing but equal to phi naught plus some coefficient, say alpha naught, times I will be writing some specific term over here as R0. Okay, so this phi 1 is nothing but this is the value of phi after the first iteration is completed. Phi naught is our initial guess, and alpha naught we are considering some coefficient over here, and this alpha naught is actually multiplied with some specific value, and this we are calling as nothing but R naught. So what is R naught? R naught is actually residual based on guessed value. Okay, so this is our residual based on guessed value. So how I can define my R naught? R naught will be nothing but equal to B minus A into phi naught. So that will be my residual, because phi naught is my guessed value. So when I'll be doing right hand side minus left hand side, so B minus A phi naught, by considering the guessed value, I'll be finding some residual that I am calling as nothing but R naught. But what is the significance of this R naught? Why I am choosing over here R naught? Why I am choosing this alpha naught? What is the value of alpha naught? That let us now try to see. Okay, so I told you that in gradient search based methods, the first thing we have to do is we have to find out some function f of phi, which will be nothing but equal to half of phi transpose A phi minus B transpose phi plus C. Now, this is also, we have seen that this function will result in some specific form of the equation. Okay, now let us try to take some example, and with the help of one example, let us try to see that what we will be obtaining from this function. So let us consider that we are having some A matrix as 1, 0, 0, 2, and another matrix B as nothing but 1 and 2. So what will be our unknowns? Our unknown matrix phi will be phi 1 and phi 2. Okay, so this will be my unknown matrix. So if I consider all these matrices, you can see over here, the matrix A I have considered it is symmetric also, and if you calculate its eigenvalue, eigenvalues will also be positive. So it means it is symmetric as well as a positive definite matrix. Okay, now if I substitute all these values into this particular equation to find out the value of the function, what I'll be getting? I'll be finding that f of phi as equal to half of, what is the phi transpose? Phi transpose will become phi 1 into phi 2, phi 1 and phi 2. This will become a row matrix. Then I'll be having A. So in A, I have 1, 0, 0, 2. Then I'll be having phi, which is phi 1 and phi 2. And then I'll be having B transpose, which is 1, 2. And then I'll be having phi 1, phi 2, and then I will be having plus C. Now, can you tell me what I'll be getting after the multiplication? So after I do first multiplication, I will be finding, let me keep it phi 1, phi 2 only. So what I'll be getting over here? It will be
phi 1,
phi 1 and it will be 2 phi 2. Clear? Minus this will be phi 1 plus 2 phi 2. Okay, and plus C. Now let us multiply these further, and if we multiply these further, I will be finding f of phi as nothing but equal to 1 by 2 phi 1 square plus 2 will be cancelling out, phi 2 square minus phi 1 minus 2 phi 2 plus C. So is this correct? Okay. Now what we will be doing, can I write this particular equation in some specific format? Let me write this first over here. F of phi equal to phi 1 square by 2 and plus phi 2 square minus phi 1 minus 2 phi 2 equal plus C. Okay. Now let me consider that I have initially considered a situation that my f of phi is equal to 0 when this particular equation having values phi 1 equal to phi 2 equal to 0. Okay. So what initial condition I have considered, I can take this as any condition. So I have initially taken a condition that when phi 1 and phi 2 is equal to 0, at that point, whatever this function f of phi we are having, say it is having value equal to 0. So this condition we will be initially employing because this will help us in finding the value of C. Okay. As finally, when we will try to minimize the function, while minimizing the function, we will be always interested in the gradient of this function f of phi. Therefore, we are not at all concerned with the value of this constant C. The value of this constant C, now I am only considering just to explain you the concept that in which direction we have to proceed the solution. Okay, so just to tell you the direction where our solution is proceeding, how our solution is proceeding, just to physically explain you that concept, we have to find out the value of this C. Otherwise, We are not at all interested with the value of c, because we have to always minimize this function. So while we will be minimizing the function, we will be considering gradient of f equal to 0. So once we consider gradient of f, whatever the value of constant we are having, that will be finally becoming 0. Okay, but to understand physical behavior of this particular method, I have just taken this condition that let us consider that f of phi is equal to 0 when our phi1 and phi2 is 0. So this condition will result in the situation that c is equal to 0. Okay, and finally I will be getting my equation as f of phi equal to phi1 square by 2 plus phi2 square minus phi1 minus 2 phi2. Okay, now if I plot this particular equation on phi1 and phi2 plane, so what I have considered phi1 along abscissa and phi2 I have considered along ordinate, and I want to say plot this equation for some specific values of the function, and initial value of the function let me consider as f of phi equal to 0. So if I have to plot this equation for f of phi is equal to 0, what I will be getting? First thing, because while we have derived the function, we have seen that this c constant is selected in such a way that our phi1 and phi2 is equal to 0 when f of phi is equal to 0. So it means at least one point I will be having over here through which this particular function will pass. Okay, so is this point clear?
Yes, sir.
Now, as I told you that this particular function I want to now plot over phi1 and phi2 graph when my f of phi is equal to 0. So simply what I have to do, I have to just write phi1 square by 2 and plus phi2 square minus phi1 minus 2 phi2 equal to 0. And over here, nothing but I have to substitute the value of 1. Say I will be substituting value for phi1, and corresponding to that from this equation, I will be getting the value for phi2. And by this substitution process, I will be keep on substituting some value for phi1, and I will be getting some another value of phi2. Okay. So after doing so, let us consider that arbitrarily, so I am not now actual curve, I am not plotting that what I will be getting, but randomly I am drawing something. Say this is one curve which I have got by considering when my f of phi is equal to 0. So is this point is clear how I will be obtaining this curve?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so now let me consider that one curve I have got like this. Okay, similarly, if you select any other value of f of phi, say if you select f of phi equal to 1, minus 1, 0.1, any other value, so you will be getting nothing but some series of curves, and these series of curves will be having different values of f. For example, this is f of phi equal to 0, and let me consider for this f of phi is say equal to some c1. So like this, I will be having series of curve over this plot. Okay. Now what I will be considering? Now I will be considering that say this point over here where I made my function f of phi equal to 0, this at which phi1 is equal to phi2 is equal to 0. Let me consider that this is my actually the initial guess. If this is the initial guess, can you tell me what is our converged solution? So this is a simple example. What will be the value of phi1 and phi2 if you solve this system of equations? If you solve a phi equal to b by using these matrices, what will be the value of phi1 and phi2? Please tell me. This is very simple.
Sir, A inverse B.
Yeah, just tell me the final values. This is a very simple case.
We'll have to find out the value of A inverse.
So phi1 barabar 1.
Yes. So I will be getting phi1 equal to 1 and phi2 is also equal to 1. So it means, say this is my phi1 1, this is my phi2 1. So this point, this circle, whatever I am marking over here, 1, 1, this is nothing but my converged solution. Okay, so this is my exact solution, but as I am using the iterative procedure, so I'm considering that when I am actually starting from this as my initial guess, let me consider this as my initial guess, and this is my converged solution. So what I will be doing, I will be proceeding my solution in certain direction. Okay, so what we do in case of gradient search methods, in case of gradient based methods, we try to propagate our solution in the direction of gradient of phi. Now, can you tell me over here which will be the direction of gradient of phi? Where we will be having gradient, existence of gradient of phi? Gradient of f of phi. Sorry, gradient of f of phi. So if you consider this particular curve is having some unique value of f of phi, another immediate curve is having some another value, and immediate next curve is having some another value. So it means, can I call that whatever the direction normal to the curve I will be getting at this point, that direction is representing nothing but gradient of phi? Can I say? Please say yes or no. Is this point clear or not?
Not clear, sir.
So what I am trying to say, that this particular f of phi is having, say, for this central line, it is having value as 0. And for this immediate next line, it is having, say, value equal to C1. So there will be some another line where it will be having value as C2. So we are getting some family of curve, and on each curve profile, we are having some unique value of f of phi. But when we are moving in a normal direction to that curve, we are finding that the value of f of phi is changing. So it means the normal direction to this curve is something where gradient of phi is existing. Is this point clear now?
Now it's clear, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we will be having the gradient of phi where the direction, and we will be proceeding our solution in this particular direction. Okay, so say this is my first direction, then after one iteration I have reached to some point phi1 and phi2 values after first iteration. So this is my second. Now through this we have to see that where our f is passing and what is the next gradient direction. So let me consider next gradient direction is something like this. Okay, so then I have to go to for second iteration. After second iteration I will be getting value of phi1 and phi2 at this point. Then similarly I have to go to the another direction which will be representing gradient of f, and like this I will be keep on continuing the iterations unless or until I am reaching to this final point. Okay, this point is clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, now let us try to see what is the value of gradient of phi. Okay, so what we are having, initial function we are having is f of phi equal to half of phi transpose into A into phi minus B transpose into phi plus C. Now can you tell me what will be the gradient of phi? df phi by d phi, we have to make this equal to 0 in order to minimize this, and that will be nothing but our gradient of phi. Okay, so can you tell me what I'll be getting?
A phi minus B.
I will be getting A into phi minus
B will be good.
what is A phi minus B? A phi minus B is nothing but our minus of residual. Clear? Because residual is B minus A5. So if residual is B minus A5, A5 minus B will represent nothing but minus of residual. Is this point clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
So
sir.
it means whatever this gradient of phi we have got over here, so the direction in which we are finding gradient of phi, that is nothing but reverse to that of the residual. So it means whatever the residual R0 I will be getting, this will be the direction of R0, and while I am proceeding my solution, I am moving opposite to R0. Okay, let me explain this over here. Say if this is my phi1 and phi2 plot, say this is my initial guess. So at the initial guess, I will be having phi0 matrix. Okay, corresponding to phi0, if this is the direction of the residual vector R0, what will be the direction in which I will be marching my solution? So the direction in which I will be marching my solution, that will be nothing but gradient of f, and we have found that gradient of f is nothing but minus of the residual. So if it is minus of the residual, so it means the direction in which my residual vector is pointing out, I have to move my solution in the direction opposite to that. So say this is the direction where I have moved my solution, and let us consider this is the value which we are getting after first iteration. Okay, so after first iteration, this is my phi1. Now once I proceeded with the first iteration, let me consider this is residual vector after first iteration R1. So if this is the residual vector where I have to progress my second iteration, my second iteration will be progressing in a direction opposite to that of the residual vector. Okay, so I have to move in this particular direction. So after second, let me get the value as this one as phi2. Now let us consider this is now the another residual direction R2. If this is residual direction R2, then I have to progress the solution opposite to R2, and this will be my solution at third iteration. So like this, I will keep on moving my solution in a direction opposite to that of the residual at each iteration level, and that will be actually giving us the solution at the next iteration level. And finally, if we keep on doing this process, we will be reaching to the converged solution. So is this point clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Now, considering this concept, if you recall, just now I told you that phi1 will be equal to nothing but phi naught plus alpha times plus alpha naught times r naught. So what I am saying that r naught is the direction which is actually representing the residual. Okay, so we are moving in the direction of the residual, opposite direction. So obviously this alpha naught value will become negative, but how much we are progressing in that direction in each iteration level, that is something which will be decided by alpha naught. So alpha naught will be specifying how much progress is there in each iteration. Okay, now question comes, how to find out the value of this alpha naught. So for finding out alpha naught, let us now try to see, let us utilize once again the function only. So if I have to find out value of function at first iteration, so value of the function at first iteration will be equal to half phi1 transpose. So I have to consider over here transpose of phi1 into A phi1 minus bt into phi1 plus c. Now I can replace this phi1 with phi naught plus alpha into r naught. So if I replace this, so I'll be getting f of phi1 as nothing but half of phi naught plus alpha naught r naught transpose into A, and in place of phi1 I'll be finding phi naught plus alpha naught r naught minus B transpose. In place of phi1 I'll be finding phi naught plus alpha naught R naught plus C. Now over here, if you see our parameter actually which is controlling the function is alpha naught. Okay, because phi naught is the guessed value and R naught is also known corresponding to the guessed value. Okay, so that's why I will be now differentiating this d f of phi 1 with d alpha naught. So if I differentiate and set it equal to 0, what I'll be getting? I'll be getting half of R naught transpose A times phi naught plus alpha naught R naught, okay, plus half of phi naught plus alpha naught R naught transpose A into here. If I differentiate, it will be becoming nothing but R naught minus BT into R naught, and remaining terms will become 0. So is this step clear to all? So this I have to now equate to 0. Now here if you see this R naught T A phi naught, and okay, if you consider this R naught T A R naught, because alpha naught is a constant, so it is a coefficient, it can be taken outside. Okay, it is a scalar. I cannot call it as constant, but let me call it as nothing but alpha naught is a scalar. So as it is a scalar, so I can take it out because it is representing that how much we have to move in that particular direction. So it is a scalar. So what I will be doing over here, let me now combine this R naught T A R naught and R naught T A R naught. So these two, because alpha naught over here I can take outside, it is a scalar only. So this will become equal to R naught T A R naught, and this is with alpha naught times, plus I am having now values R naught T A phi naught plus half of phi naught T A R naught minus BT into R naught. Okay, this is equal to 0. So now I have to find out the relationship between these two terms. So how I can find out the relation? Let me take this first term, R naught T A phi naught. So if I take R naught T A phi naught, what is the size of R naught T matrix? Can you tell me what is the size of R naught T matrix? What is the size of A matrix? N by N. If I have N system of equations, what is the size of phi naught matrix?
1 cross N.
1 cross N, or N cross 1? N cross 1. And what is the size of R naught? R naught transpose. R naught is nothing but B minus A phi naught. So what is B minus A phi naught? It will be becoming a matrix of, N cross 1. So R naught transpose will be 1 cross N. Okay. So it means finally this entire multiplication will result in nothing but a scalar. It will be resulting in a scalar value. Clear?
Yes, yes.
So if it is a scalar value, can I write R naught T A phi naught transpose of this entire as equal to R naught T A phi naught? Can I write it like this? Because if it is a scalar, so transpose of scalar will be equal to scalar only. Okay. Now let us expand this. So let me consider this as, say, Q and this as P. So if these are P and Q, how I can expand this scalar? I can write A phi naught transpose into R naught transpose, it's further transpose. Okay. Similarly, now this A and phi naught I can further write as phi naught transpose into A transpose, and this transpose and transpose will result in simply R naught, and this A transpose is nothing but equal to A because A is a symmetric matrix. So I can simply write it as phi naught T A into R naught. So now if you compare this, this is our nothing but phi naught T A into R naught. So this phi naught T A into R naught, I can simply replace with R naught T A phi naught. Is it correct?
Yes, sir.
So what I have done, I have replaced this phi naught T A R naught with R naught transpose A phi naught. So now I can add these two terms. So if I add these two terms, finally I will be getting alpha naught into R naught T A R naught plus R naught T A phi naught minus BT into phi naught. Okay, this will be equal to 0. Now once again, BT into phi naught I can simply write as B transpose into phi naught, transpose of entire, because this will once again become a scalar. So I can simply write it as phi naught transpose, and B transpose transpose will simply become B. Okay, so this B transpose into phi naught I can simply replace with phi naught transpose into B. So it will become alpha naught R naught T A R naught plus R naught T A phi naught and minus phi naught T into B. Okay. This point is clear? Sorry, I have made this mistake. It was BT into R naught. So here I have made a mistake. It was BT into R naught. And if I consider this BT into R naught, it will be becoming over here as transpose of R naught T into B. So here I have to write transpose of R naught T into B. Okay, this equal to 0. So what is this term? This term is becoming R naught T times A phi naught minus B. What is A phi naught minus B?
Minus of residual.
Minus of
Residual.
minus of R0. Okay, so from here I will be finally getting that alpha naught equal to, what will be the value for alpha naught? R naught T into R naught divided by transpose of R naught into A R naught. Okay, so this is the value of alpha naught I have got. So if I know the value of alpha naught, I am knowing the value of R0, so I can easily now progress to find out the value of phi 1, which is nothing but phi naught plus alpha naught into R naught. Is it correct? So this is how we can actually progress our solution. So let me write now the algorithm of this steepest descent method in generalized form. So what is the algorithm for this? First step is we have to guess, and after guessing I'll be getting phi naught. After that, what I have to do? Find R0. Okay, this point is clear. Then I have to find out alpha 0, which is function of nothing but R0 and R. So this is the second step. Then third step is I have to progress the solution to find out the value of phi1. So phi1 will be nothing but equal to phi naught plus alpha naught into R naught. Once I have found phi1, what I'll be finding further? I'll be finding further the value of R1 and alpha 1. What will be the value of alpha 1? Can you tell me what will be the value for alpha 1? R1T into R1 divided by R1T into AR1. Okay. Then once I found R1 and alpha 1, I can go to the next iteration. So I can generalize this procedure by writing that phi at iteration level I plus 1 will be nothing but equal to phi at iteration level I plus alpha I into Ri, where our Ri is nothing but B minus A phi I and alpha I is nothing but Ri transpose into Ri divided by Ri transpose A into Ri. So this is the procedure for steepest descent method, and in this particular method actually we move our solution in a direction opposite to that of the residual. Okay, and now one important point is there that at a specific point we are moving in a direction opposite to the residual, but how two residual vectors are actually associated to each other. Okay, so whether these are orthogonal, these are parallel at different iteration levels. So let us consider our residual vector at two different iteration levels, R1 and R0. And let us first multiply these. So if I have to multiply these two, what I have to do? For multiplying these two, I have to consider over here transpose of 1, because then only I'll be able to multiply these. So let me make it R0 T into R1. So can I write it like this? R0 T into, in place of R1, can I write B minus A phi 1? Okay. Now what I will be doing, R0 transpose into B minus A. In place of phi 1, I can write phi naught plus alpha naught into R naught. Okay. Now it will be becoming R naught T into B minus A phi naught minus alpha naught A R naught. Okay. And B minus A phi naught will become nothing but equal to R naught, and in place of alpha naught, I can write, in place of alpha naught, what I can write? R naught T into R divided by R naught T A R naught. Okay. And into I have this A R naught. What it is becoming finally? If you see over here, R naught A into R naught T A into R naught will be cancelling out, and finally I will be getting this as nothing but equal to 0. So if these are nothing but two vectors, so if two vectors their multiplication is equal to 0, it means these two vectors are nothing but orthogonal to each other. Is this point clear?
Yes, sir.
So that's why if you see, while I was showing you the marching of the solution in steepest gradient method, I have drawn these two residual vectors perpendicular to each other. For example, this R0 and R1 I have drawn as perpendicular. Then I have drawn this R1 and R2 as once again perpendicular. So the direction of residual I have actually between the consecutive iterations I have drawn as perpendicular. Why? Because their dot product is actually becoming equal to 0. Okay. So this particular method is referred to as steepest descent method. Now one more method is there which is known as conjugate gradient method, and in case of conjugate gradient method, slightly we change the direction of our movement. Okay, so if you all are free, then I can take 10-15 minutes extra and explain that one. So is that okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay, sir.
Okay, so now let me discuss the next method as conjugate gradient method. So in case of conjugate gradient method, what we will be doing, the first iteration step, we will be progressing in a similar fashion to that of the steepest descent method. Okay, so what I will do, I will consider that initial residual is R0, and once this residual R0 is known, I can find out the value for alpha 0. If I am having alpha 0, I can find out value of phi 1 as nothing but equal to phi naught plus alpha 0 into R0. Okay, but when I will be progressing in the second iteration, while I'll be writing phi 2, I will not now move along the direction of the residual. Rather, I will write it as phi 1 plus alpha 1 and some another direction P1. Now, how to find out this P1 direction? What is the benefit of having this P1 direction? That let us try to see. So what we do over here, this is my phi 1, this is phi 2. So let me consider this was the initial guess, phi 0, and say this is the converged solution, phi c. If this is the converged solution, phi c. Okay. So now I will be, as I told you, that first iteration I will progress in a similar way as that of the steepest descent method. So I'll say I have reached to this point. This is my next point after the first iteration, where I am having now the value of phi 1 as known. Okay. After that, what we do in case of conjugate gradient method, we try to approach that in the single iteration only, we will try to reach to the converged solution. Okay, so if we attempt to reach to the converged solution in a single iteration, what I will be doing, I will try to move my solution along this particular direction. Okay, so now can you tell me what is the direction vector of this particular direction? So the direction vector of this will be nothing but phi c minus phi 1, because phi vector at this point is phi 1 and at this point is phi c. So the direction vector in this particular direction will be nothing but phi c minus phi 1. Is this point clear?
Yes, sir.
Now this phi c minus phi 1 is representing the direction vector over here, but one important point is missing. We have to also find out that how much we are moving in this direction. So how much we are moving in this direction, that let us call as nothing but some constant k. So k times phi c minus phi 1 I have moved in this particular direction. And let me call this as P1. So I have considered that P1 is my direction, and this P1 I have selected in such a fashion so that I am moving actually k times in the direction of phi c minus phi 1 vector. So over here, what I have attempted, that after the first iteration, we are attempting to move in a direction which will give us the solution in a single step. Okay, so in a single step, we are approaching towards the converged solution. Okay, so this direction which I have specified over here, P1 direction, I have specifically mentioned this as k times phi c minus phi 1. Okay, now what I have to do after this, I have to let me multiply this with A vector. So if I multiply with A matrix, A P1 will be equal to k times A phi c minus A phi 1. Okay. Now can you tell me what will be A phi c? So phi c is my converged solution. So what will be A phi c? If it is converged solution, at that time residual will be 0. So A phi c will be nothing but equal to B. So I can simply write over here k times B minus A phi 1, and this is becoming nothing but AP1 is becoming equal to K times, what I am getting? K times R1. Okay. So AP1 has become equal to K times of R1. Now, let me do one more thing. Let me multiply this one. Let me pre-multiply with R0 transpose. So if I pre-multiply with R0 transpose, what I will be getting? R0 transpose into AP1 will be equal to, so K is some scalar over here on the right hand side. So it will be becoming K times R0 transpose into R1. Now, can you tell me what is R0 transpose into R1? R0 transpose into R1 is nothing but equal to 0, which we have seen in just few slides earlier. Okay. So R0 transpose into R1 is nothing but equal to 0. So this will become 0. That's why I will be finding from here that R0 transpose A into P1 is equal to 0. Okay. So this is one important finding. Now, one more thing I just want to tell you, that if for conjugate gradient method, I generalize all my direction matrices in terms of P only, then I can write that phi 1 is nothing but equal to phi naught plus alpha naught into P naught. However, for the first iteration, our P naught will be nothing but equal to R naught. Okay, because in first iteration, it behaves like steepest descent method only. Okay, so I can make it P naught equal to R naught. So that's why this particular R naught T over here, now I can replace with P naught. So I can write it P naught T A into P1 equal to 0. Okay. So this is one important point over here. Now, one thing I can do, now question comes, what is the question? I have already written that phi 2 is nothing but phi 1 plus alpha 1 into P1. But now question comes, how to determine P1? That is the question. So we have selected some direction P1, but now question comes how to determine P1. So for answering this question, first we will try to know that what are the quantities which are known to us. So if you see over here, we are knowing the value of R1, okay, and we are knowing the value of what another value we are knowing? We are knowing the value of alpha naught, and we are knowing the value of R naught. So these three values actually we are knowing. So can we utilize these values to find out the value of P1?
Yes, sir.
So what we can do, we can take some linear approximation where we will be saying that our P1 is nothing but equal to R1 minus beta 1 times P0. Okay. So what I have done, I have taken some approximation that with residual R1 and the earlier direction P0, my P1 vector, P1 direction is actually having some linear relationship. Okay. And by using this linear relationship, now I can actually find out nothing but the values for value of this P1. Okay. So is this point clear? What I have done? Nothing but I have tried. Now my objective over here is to find out the value for P1. So for finding the value for P1, we have considered that what are the parameters which are known to us. So the parameters which are known to us are nothing but R1 residual, then alpha naught and R naught. Okay. So I have considered, and this R naught is nothing but equal to P naught also. So which represents the direction of the previous iteration. So with reference to the direction of the previous iteration and residual of the present iteration, we are considering some linear combination which will be actually helping us in finding out the value of P1. Okay. So now what I have to do? I have to make this form on left hand side. So if I have to make this form on left hand side, I have to multiply with P naught into A. So I have to pre-multiply this equation with P naught into A. So if I multiply with P naught into A, it will become P naught transpose A P1, which will be equal to P naught transpose A into R1 minus beta 1. So this beta 1 is once again some coefficient we have considered, which is actually representing that how much we will be taking the weightage of the previous direction. Okay. So for that we have used this coefficient beta naught over here. So this will become P naught T A P1 equal to P naught T A R1 minus beta 1 P naught T A into P naught. Okay. And this, because this left hand side is nothing but equal to 0, which we have already proven. So I can simply write it equal to 0. So from here, I am getting my value of beta 1 as nothing but P naught T A R1, P naught T A R1 divided by P naught T A P naught. Okay. So I have obtained the coefficient beta 1, and this coefficient beta 1 I have obtained by considering that we are aiming to find out the value of P1 by considering that R1 and P naught are known. So if we use this linear combination from here, after making the left hand side identical to this, actually we have got the value for beta 1. Once we have got value for beta 1, it means I can find out the value of P1. This point is clear. So once P1 is known, I can find out the value of phi 1 as, what was phi 1? Phi naught plus alpha naught into, sorry, now I can find out the value of phi 2, which is nothing but equal to phi 1 plus alpha 1 into P1. But the question comes that alpha 1 is still unknown. So if alpha 1 is still unknown, how I can find out alpha 1? I can find out value of f of phi 2. F of phi 2 will be nothing but equal to half of phi transpose into A phi, and this I have to estimate at 0.2 minus BT into phi 2 plus C. So if I substitute this approximation, what I will be getting? F of phi 2 will become half of phi 1 plus alpha 1 P1 transpose into A into phi 1 plus alpha 1 P1. Okay. And minus BT into phi 1 plus alpha 1 P1 and plus C. So now over here, alpha 1 is that quantity which we want to calculate. So let me differentiate this function with alpha 1 equal to 0. What I'll be getting, can you tell me? Half of P1 transpose A into phi 1 plus alpha 1 P1 plus half of phi 1 plus alpha 1 P1 transpose into A into P1 minus BT into P1, and this I have to make equal to 0. So from here, once again, you can see this P1 TA and alpha P1 are coming in both. So I can write alpha 1 P1 T A P1, okay, plus I am having half of What is the other term I am having? P1T A phi 1 plus phi 1 into A P1 minus BT into P1 equal to 0. The way earlier I have proved that this one will become nothing but equal to, the way I have proved earlier, you can over here also try the transpose of this entire, and finally you will be finding that this entire quantity will become equal to that of P1 transpose A into phi 1. So finally I can write, if I replace, how I am replacing this, this is something you can just take the transpose of this and apply the operations similarly as I have shown you earlier. Okay, so I will be getting from here that alpha 1 times P1 transpose into A P1 plus P1T A phi 1 and this will become P1T into B. Okay, another term. So minus P1T into B equal to 0. So over here, this P1T will become, it will be coming outside, and A phi 1 minus B will become nothing but R1, and I'll be getting the value of alpha. So that will be becoming minus R1. So finally, I'll be getting the value of alpha 1 as P1T A R1 divided by P1T A P1. Clear? Once I have the value of alpha 1, I can easily now find out phi 2 equal to phi 1 plus alpha 1 into P1. Okay, so now let me also give the generalized form for this method. So for this method, if I give you the algorithm, for this method, algorithm works like this. Our first step will be guess phi 0. Then we have to find R0 and alpha 0. And then we have to set P0 equal to R0. And I have to then calculate the first iteration with phi 1 equal to phi naught plus alpha naught into P naught. Okay. After that, what next step I have to do? After that, I have to first find out the value of beta, because beta will be helping us in finding the value of P. Because what is the value of P1? P1 is equal to, please tell me, what is the value of P1? R1 minus beta 1 into P naught. Okay. So where, what is the value of beta 1? I have shown you in the previous slides. Please tell me the value for beta 1.
P naught transpose A R1
P naught transpose A R1
divided by P naught transpose A P naught.
A P naught. Okay. So this will help us in finding out, this beta 1 will help us in finding out P1. After that, what we have to do, we have to find out alpha 1. How to find out alpha 1? Just I have calculated P1T into AR1 divided by P1T into AP1. So once alpha 1 is estimated, I can find out the value of phi 2 as nothing but phi 1 plus alpha 1 into P1. Now I can write the, let me write in the fifth step, the generalized equation. So generalized equation will become phi at I plus 1 equal to phi at I plus alpha I into Pi for all I greater than, equal to 1, because for I equal to 0, this will not be applicable. And similarly, can you tell me what will be the generic form of beta and alpha? In the generic form, alpha I will be equal to PIT into ARI divided by PIT transpose into Pi, and value of beta I will be equal to Pi minus 1 transpose into ARI divided by Pi minus 1 transpose A into Pi minus 1. Okay, and this all is applicable for I greater than equal to 1, because for I equal to 0, our procedure will be similar to that of the steepest descent method. Okay, so over here, what we do, we try to use some another direction, and this particular direction is having focus to reach towards our converged solution at the rapid rate. So in terms of convergence, if you see, our conjugate gradient method works faster in comparison to the steepest descent method. Okay, so for the sake of comparison, you can take one problem, A equal to 1, say, let me take any random value, 1, 1, 2, 2, B equal to say 1, 2, and phi will be equal to phi 1 and phi 2. And this particular problem, all of you please try to solve using both the steepest descent method as well as the conjugate gradient method, and try to establish that how many number of iterations steepest descent is taking and how many number of iterations conjugate gradient method is taking. Okay, now there are some advanced versions of this conjugate gradient methods. So one of this is called as CGS, where CGS referred to as conjugate gradient squared. One is CG stab, where it is referred to as conjugate gradient stabilized. So these advanced versions actually results in faster convergence rates. So we will not go into the details of these advanced methods. Apart from that, there is one more important method, which is nothing but biconjugate gradient. So biconjugate gradient. So biconjugate gradient method, it is the variant of the conjugate gradient method which is applicable for non-symmetric A. Okay, so this is also something which we will not deal over here in this particular course. But let me just tell you, in computational fluid dynamics, when we are talking about Laplace and Poisson equation, okay, when we are only having the diffusion term involved, and diffusion term with say some source, at that time, majority of the times, whatever the matrix we will be finding, that will be nothing but symmetric. Okay, but when our convection comes into picture, or even if we go for the Navier-Stokes equations, then we will be finding our matrices which are not always symmetric. Okay, so for that, if you want to employ the conjugate gradient methods, you have to do certain modifications. You have to use the variant of the another variant of the conjugate gradient method, which is specifically known as biconjugate gradient method. Okay, but these just I have included over here, that if any one of you want to study, so you can go through the textbooks of advanced linear algebra, and you can study these methods. But over here now, from the next lecture onwards, we will actually start our discussion. Okay, before that, we will talk about one more type of method, which are nothing but multi-grid solvers. And after the multi-grid solvers, we will take up the transient problems. Okay. So now I'll stop at this point. And if you have any further questions, that you may discuss now.